Hello there, it's Sarah from Paper Lovely. Thanks for joining me today. At last, I am back with my 10 cards 1 kit using the Simon Says Stamp August 2018 card kit, and here I'm going to give you a quick look at what was included. So jumping here into card number 1, I've got a scrap piece of Neenah cardstock, and I'm going to stamp out this jar with the flowers using some Memento Tuxedo Black ink. And I'm using this ink because it's Copic friendly, and it's actually my favorite ink to use with my Copic markers. Now there was a lot of coloring in this kit. I absolutely love this stamp set, but because it takes longer to show you the coloring, most of that I've left out. For this one, I'm just giving you a quick look, and this is generally how I did all the Copic coloring. I just laid down my darkest color and then went over with my lightest, and because I don't have a ton of Copics, to find a medium shade, I will take the tip of my lightest shade, just touch that to the darker shade, and then I can sort of blend that together to get a medium tone for the center of my flowers. I went ahead then next and I fussy cut that out with my scissors. Here I'm adding a glue dot to the back, and I'm just going to wrap this twine that was included in the kit around a few times. And then I went ahead and also tied a bow out of that same twine. Here I'm just going to stick that down on the front with a glue dot. I'm stamping out some of the smaller sentiments, and I went with A Special Gift for You from my Heart to Yours Picked with Love, and I'm stamping that on some scrap Recollections black cardstock with my Versamark ink. And then I'm going to heat set that with Simon Says Stamp Fine Detail White Embossing Powder. And this works really well on these tiny sentiments. I used that beautiful script paper and trimmed out a rectangle measuring 4 by 5 1/4. I'm going to place that on top of one of the card bases I made from the pink cardstock that came in the kit. There you'll see I have added some 1/8 inch Scor-Tape behind each of those little strips of the sentiments that I trimmed out. I'm going to place that down here on my panel. I went ahead then and put some foam tape behind my cutout flower vase. And I'll peel away the backing. I used a lot of small pieces because of the way I fussy cut this. There's lots of little leaves, so I wanted to make sure that those wouldn't get crushed if I ended up mailing this. And I'll place that down on my panel. I added some ATG to the back of that, and then I'm going to place that down on the top of my pink card base. Sorry, my head keeps getting in the way here. I have a new setup since I moved, and I need to get used to where my camera is. So this does happen throughout the video, but hopefully I will figure that out soon and you'll see less of the top of my head. There for the inside panel, I just went ahead and re-stamped that vase using my Lawn Fawn Minty Fresh ink, and here I'm placing that on the inside of my card base. And that will complete card number 1. So here for card number 2, I'm going to stamp out this flower pot, and I really only want the top portion of the flower, so I'm not worried about making sure the whole stamp fits there at the moment. And I'm again using Memento Tuxedo Black ink because I'm going to want to go ahead and Copic color those as well. I also grabbed the fence design, and I'm stamping this out using Simon Says Stamp Intense Black ink on some MFT primitive white cardstock. So here I'm just giving you a quick look. I used my fingertip craft knife to cut around all of the slats of that fence, and I'm attaching those two together in the center there using some liquid glue. Off to the side, you'll see that I colored in my flowers and just trimmed those across the top to take the pot off the bottom. I wanted these to look like they were growing alongside or in front of the fence. So there I took my foam tape and just placed that along the back of the thicker portions of the fence, and I'm going to place another strip along the bottom of each of those little flower spreads. I've trimmed down this yellow bird paper to 4 by 5 1/4, and I'm going to stamp the sentiment "Thank you" on the front using my Intense Black ink. And then since I had everything out, I went ahead and did the inside of my card. I'm stamping directly on the card base, and I went with the sentiment "For Your Kindness," again using my Intense Black ink. This card is also made from MFT's Primitive White. And then I took again the top of that flower pot and just added those flowers above the sentiment. I had stamped out a third flower pot and I didn't end up using that, so I went ahead and just fussy cut out that poppy flower and thought that would be a nice pop of color on the inside. And I'm adding a little bit of green very lightly because this is not a Copic friendly card base. So I just put just a touch of green, and then I'm going to glue down this colored poppy, which that was colored on Neenah cardstock and then fussy cut out. So here I'm going to place down my panel on the front of the card. And then I'll peel away the backing from my foam tape and place down the fence. And then I'm just going to overlap my flowers slightly. So I'm trimming off one of the leaves there, just making sure I like that. And then I have the foam tape along the bottom, but I'm going to add a little bit of liquid glue behind the top. And that way they will be nice and even and stuck down on top of the fence. And that will complete card number 2. For card number 3, I wanted to play around with these little heart stickers, and I wasn't quite sure what to do with them, and then I thought, why not just go with a rainbow color and create a rainbow? So I'm using my Sizzix circle dies, and I ended up using the 3 3/4, 2 1/2, and 1 1/4 sizes. And I've laid that out. I've also cut out from some Neenah cardstock some clouds using my puffy cloud border dies. And what I did here was just lay out the circle, and then I used that to make sure that I could keep everything sort of even so that I wasn't all over the place. And I'm just going in rainbow order here. I used the outside and the inside of each circle, and then when I got to this bottom circle, I went ahead and just used the outside for that last blue color. Here I've got the cloud borders that I cut out, and I'm just gonna add some Scor-Tape behind the back of those. And then I'll place these down. So the first one I went with was the smaller clouds. And when I got that lined up where I wanted it, I just peeled back a little of that Scor-Tape to get the corner down. And then here I'm just using my pick tool to sort of push up some of the hearts that were going to be slightly under there. I wanted to make sure you could see each color along the edge of the clouds. And once I'm happy with that, I'm going to take that bottom cloud border and I'll place that along my panel. And this is a panel trimmed to 4 by 5 1/4 that I cut out of that blue hexagon paper. I trimmed off the edges there and then lined up my sentiment that says "with love." And I'm stamping that using my intense black ink. And then for the inside, I stamped the sentiment "for you," again with that intense black ink. Here I'll use my ATG gun and I'm going to attach that cloud panel to the top of a card base. This is made from MFT's Blue Raspberry. And then I wanted to play around with the rainbow idea. I didn't have a pot of gold, but I found some gold washi tape. So I'm just placing a gold strip along the bottom of my inside panel, and I'll wrap the extras around the back of that. And then again, use my ATG gun, and I will place that on the inside of my card base. And that will complete card number 3. So here for card number 4, I've got a panel of Neenah Desert Storm trimmed to 4 by 5 1/4. And I'm going to stamp out this pretty wreath using Simon Says Stamp Barely Beige ink. I'm going to do a little bit of no line coloring using my Prismacolor colored pencils. So I'm stamping that out, and then I've turned my stamp the opposite direction to add a flower to the other side. I'm going to stamp that right on top again. I got a little ink in the center there, but don't worry about that. I went ahead and used my mono sand eraser, and I was able to get that out, so you never know it was there. Here I'm stamping just an extra because I was thinking I might want to pop one of the flowers up. I colored those, and again, for the sake of time, I've left that out, but I will have everything, all of the colors for all of the cards listed for you on my blog post. I've lined that up here in my Misty, and I'm going to go ahead and stamp the sentiment "with love" using, again, my intense black ink across the center. For the inside, I've got another panel of Neenah Desert Storm trimmed to 4 by 5 1/4, and I went with the sentiment "from my heart to yours." I did color that extra flower that I had stamped out and fussy cut that, and decided I didn't want to add it to the front, but it would look good on the inside corner. So I'm just going to take, again, my art glitter glue, and I will place that down. Here I'm going to go ahead and add that wreath panel to the top of the black card base. And then I'll go ahead and add my inside panel, and you'll see I did take one of my black Prismacolor pencils and color in the center of that poppy before I attached it. For the outside here, I'm going to use my Nuvo drops to get a little bit of extra dimension. And that is the color Ebony Black. And that will complete card number 4. So here for card number 5, I'm going to stamp out all 3 of these floral pots and vases. And I'm again using my intense black ink. I'm going to color these in using my Prismacolor colored pencils. and then I will go ahead and fussy cut all 3 of those out. I found an extra scrap of gray cardstock and I trimmed that to 4 by 5 1/4. I'm sorry I don't remember the color. I'm pretty sure it's MFT. It might be steel gray, but I'm not certain on that. The card base, I do know it is tangy orange, and I thought it matched with that poppy really well. So I've got that gray trimmed out, and then I also had a leftover piece of this script paper, which I really loved. So I took that stripe and added that to the gray piece. And then here you see I'm adding some foam tape behind the top 2 floral vases. So the jar I'm just going to add directly onto the panel, and then I popped up the I'm not sure what that is, if it's a rose or a peony that's in sort of the tin vase with 1 layer of foam tape. And then I added 2 layers of foam tape behind the flower pot that I'm going to place directly in front of that. For the inside, I thought that my Lawn Fawn Minty Fresh ink would look really nice with that tangy orange cardstock. So I've got my usual Neenah panel trimmed to 4 by 5 1/4, and I went ahead and stamped out the sentiment "Thank you." I'm going to place that on the inside of my card base. And that will complete card number 5. Here is a quick look back at the cards we created today. You'll find additional photos as well as a full list of supplies at my blog post linked in the description below. If you enjoyed the video, please leave me a comment or a thumbs up and subscribe for more. Thanks again for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.